Hi everyone, today I'm doing my stock market portfolio review for the month of June, and basically this is where I show my whole stock market portfolio, all my positions that I have in my portfolio. I see the return that I had in June, and then I compare my portfolio return to the S&P 500, and I see if I was able to beat the S&P 500, because that's basically like my goal every month or through the year, is to see if I can beat the S&P 500. Since I started investing, that's always been my target, and since I've started investing, I've always been able to beat that target of beating the S&P 500. This year looks slightly more tricky. I've kind of not had such a great start to the year, and sometimes I've fallen behind the S&P 500. But we'll see how we're doing this month and how we're getting on competing against the S&P 500 overall. Now, June itself was actually a pretty decent month for the stock market. Last month, May, obviously it was a very rough month, and we had a lot of stocks going down. It was a negative month in the portfolio. Obviously June has been slightly better. We had some nice gains in June, and also that's reflected in the portfolio. We had some nice gains in the portfolio, and I'll show you my portfolio in a second. I'll talk about every position, and then after I've showed you my portfolio and how I'm doing, I'll talk about any changes that I potentially could be making in that stock market portfolio in July. Now, one thing to remember, guys, when I do show you this, is that all these numbers aren't exactly perfectly right. Some are slightly this is quite hard to measure because I don't actually have a tracker in my broker that I use, so I kind of have to do it all by hand, and sometimes the actual percentages could just be slightly out by a couple of points, and also it doesn't reflect some position sizes that I have in my portfolio. So say for example Microsoft is actually bigger than what is shown on this portfolio tracker, but it's a good idea to roughly see how my portfolio is doing altogether. So guys, we're going to jump across to my portfolio right now and show you how everything is doing. So right here we've got the portfolio up, and I'll run you through all of my numbers so far. The name of the stock is on the left. We have the entry date that I went into the stock since I've been tracking it. And then I've got all the percentages from the month and then the year-to-date return. Just to make you aware, if you haven't watched before, if you look at Apple and STZ, which is Constellation Brands, their positions have been sold, so that's why the box is empty for the month of June. And then we have the S&P's return down at the bottom. So we'll go through JD. JD was a good month after having a bad May. That was up 16.4% and a really good return for the year. Microsoft was up 7.22%. That's 32% year-to-date return. Obviously Apple's been sold. J&J 6.05%, which is a really big move really for J&J, and that was the best month it's had since I've held that position. Visa 6.65%. Obviously STC's been sold. Facebook 5.93%. Walgreens 6.92%, but that's still down 12% for the year. CBRE was up 8.64%, so that's up now 4% for the year. Carnival was down 9%, bad earnings, really that's the reason why, and that's put that position down into negative now. Alibaba 11.13%, that's still down actually 6% right now. Tesla, I invested in that company, and then in May it was down 26%. That's slightly recovered 17%, which isn't too bad, but it still means we're down 8.94% this year. What's really quite funny about this, guys, is that if you run down the year-to-date return, you see that the companies that have actually been in the longest, and more the companies that I've got a better return on, which kind of shows you that, that long-term investment strategy, the longer you hold them, the more them stocks will go up. And you look at them like top three positions really. You got JD up 30%, Microsoft up 32%, Apple was up 27%, and Visa that I'm still holding right there, that's 28%. And more the stocks that are down and more my recent positions. So it just kind of shows you, you've just got to be able to hold them positions when they do go down if you do invest, and then potentially add into them. But overall, that actually put my portfolio up 18.3%. 18.37%. The S&P up 16.01%, because on the month of June, my portfolio actually brought in a 7% or 7.6% return, and the S&P brought in a 5.07% return. So I actually outperformed the S&P by about 2.5%. in the month of June, which was pretty good. That's kind of like what I kind of want to aim for more often, is kind of beating it by that sort of margin, which I haven't done as much this year. But it does push us in front of the S&P 500 for the year-to-date return. But I'd like that year-to-date return to be more of the 20% mark. So I think I could have done a little bit better myself, but we're still ahead of the S&P 500, which at the end of the day is our main goal going forward. So guys, that's my portfolio return for the month of June. If you kind of want to have a big long look at it and see it like previous months and how my portfolio's gone through the year, just pause it back on that screen and you'll be able to have a look. But I'm happy that I've now been able to get in front of the S&P 500. Like I say, I'd ideally wanted to be my returns more in the 20% range right now, but you can't always, get that sort of return. But I'm still ahead of the S&P 500, which is the main thing. I just think that my returns could have been a little bit better. But I'm still happy with the kind of returns that I have. Kind of going forward, any adjustments that are going to be made into the portfolio. I was kind of considering adding Visa, but because of a comment on the free stocks that I'm buying, kind of made me think, is Alibaba a bit more undervalued right now than Visa? Do I believe I could get a better return from Alibaba than Visa right now? And after thinking about that comment and looking into it, I think that maybe I should be buying more shares in Alibaba right now than Visa. Even though I don't think I'll ever get a pullback in Visa, but Visa for me is a company that I really like. I don't think it'll ever have a big massive pullback, but I'd like to invest in a little bit more because I believe it's a very safe company that will give a good return going forward. Alibaba is still on a massive discount and is a company that's growing more than what Visa is, and it's also a nice discount right now. So maybe Alibaba should be the one that I invest in right now. Carnival, because of it dropping so much, makes me kind of think that I want to just buy a couple more shares right now on this kind of discount. And those are kind of the two stocks I'm really looking at probably buying. Maybe three if you say Visa. I'll see what happens, but this month I'll definitely be probably adding a few more positions or shares into my portfolio, which I kind of haven't done for 2 months. And probably the main reason why is because I've been putting a lot more money into my investment property. And I've kind of got to balance that, which is really tricky, and a lot of money does have to go in there. So it's quite hard to manage both of them. But for me, I want to add a few more shares in and not neglect the stock portfolio at all. And kind of like selling wise, the plan going forward is that there's not really any stocks I'm looking to sell right now. They're all kind of like off my selling targets, to be honest with you. The only one that I'm kind of considering is my JD position, because right now after I did my end of month for June, my stock return, JD's gone up a little bit more, and I'm kind of thinking, right, maybe if I'm going to invest a bit more into Alibaba, maybe take a bit of JD profits and release them slightly, and then if I do that, I can add that Alibaba position because I feel that's still quite undervalued. And I like Alibaba more than JD. The only reason why I got so much JD at the time is because I felt that JD was more undervalued than Alibaba and I could get a better return, which is kind of how it's planned out. So I made the right call there. But for me, I'm thinking about just taking a little bit of profits out of that JD position and then investing somewhere else, but still keeping some JD position open. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking going forward. We'll see what happens, but those are probably the change that I would probably make in the month of July. We'll see what happens exactly, but that's what I'm thinking anyway. Guys, that's me talking about my stock portfolio for the month of June and talking about how it did. I hope you enjoy this. I know a lot of people like seeing how my portfolio does, the gains, and seeing how what stocks I'm investing in right now and what I'm planning to do. It's really interesting, and I like checking other people's out. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the transparency of me showing you it all. And thanks for all the support recently, guys. We've gone past the 300 mark. We're chasing down that 400 mark. So I'm gonna probably say that, like, if we could get to like 500 subscribers by Halloween, that'd probably be like my next kind of target. So if we could do that, that'd be pretty good. So if we could do that, that'd be awesome. So thank you so much. Give the video a like, and I'll see you on the next video.